Welcome to Principles of Management. This lecture is looking at Chapter 11, Managing Human Resource Systems. Learning outcomes include explain how different employment laws affect human resource practice, outline how companies should use recruiting to find qualified job applicants, describe the selection techniques and procedures that companies use when deciding which applicants should receive job offers, explain how to align various training needs with appropriate training methods, outline the steps for using performance appraisals to give meaningful performance feedback, describe the basic compensation strategies, and discuss the 4 kinds of employee separation. Before exploring how human resource systems work, you need to understand the better complex legal environment in which they exist. All the federal employment laws are administered by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. The general effect of its body of law, which is still evolving through court decisions, is that employers may not discriminate employment decisions on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, religion, color, national origin, race, disability, or genetic history. The intent is to make these factors irrelevant in employment decision. The only time that sex, age, religion, and the like can be used to make employment decisions is when they are considered a bona fide occupational qualifications. These laws apply in the entire HRM process and not just the selection decision. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 establishes the federal minimum wage and rules related to overtime pay, eligibility and rates, record keeping, and child labor laws. Equal Pay Act of 1963 prohibits unequal pay for males and females doing substantially similar work. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967 prohibits discrimination in employment decisions against a person aged 40 or older. Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 prohibits discrimination of employment against pregnant women. Americans with Disability Act of 1990 prohibits discrimination on the basis of physical or mental disabilities. Civil Rights Act of 1991 straightened the provisions of the Civil Rights Acts of 1964 by providing for jury trials and punitive damages. Family of Medical Leave Act of 1993 permits workers to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for emergency and or birth of new child, adoption or foster care of new child, illness of an immediate family member, or personal medical leave. Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 1994 prohibits discrimination against those serving in the Armed Forces Reserves, the National Guard, or other uniformed services. It guarantees that civilian employees will hold and then restore civilian jobs. Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act of 2008 prohibits discrimination on the basis of genetic information. Labor laws regulate the interaction between management and labor unions that represent groups of employees. Laws and regulations governing safety standards are administered by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA. Bona fide occupation qualifications are exceptions in employment law that permit sex, age, religion, and the like to be used when making employment decisions, but only if they are reasonably necessary to the normal operations of that particular business. Bona fide occupational qualifications are strictly monitored by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Disparate treatment is the intentional discrimination that occurs when people are purposely not given the same hiring, promotion, or membership opportunities because of their sex, race, color, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, ethnic group, national origin, or religious beliefs. The EEOC investigates and and charges of discrimination, enforces the employment discrimination laws in federal court, and publishes guidelines that organizations can use to ensure they are in compliance with the law. These guidelines are defined two important criteria: disparate treatment and adverse impact, which are used to determine whether companies have engaged in discriminatory hiring and promotion practices. The adverse impact is unintentional discrimination that occurs when members of a particular race, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or ethnic group are unintentionally harmed or at a disadvantage because they are hired, promoted, or trained, or any other employment decision at substantially lower rates than others. Fourth, this or 80% rule is a rule of thumb used by the courts and the EEOC to determine whether there is evidence of adverse impact. A violation to this rule occurs when the impact ratio is less than 80% or 4/5. Impact ratio is calculated by dividing decision ratio for a protected group by the decision ratio of a non-protected group. According to the EEOC, sexual harassment is a form of discrimination in which unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favor, or other verbal or physical conduct of sexual nature occurs. From a legal perspective, there are two kinds of sexual harassment: quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Quid pro quo sexual harassment is a form of sexual harassment in which employment outcomes such as hiring, promotion, or simple keeping of one's job depend on whether an individual submits to sexual harassment. Hostile work environment is a form of sexual harassment in which unwelcomed and demeaning sexual-related behavior creates an intimidating or offensive work environment. Recruiting is the process of developing a pool of qualified job applicants. Job analysis is a purposeful, systematic process for collecting information on the important work-related aspects of a job, such as work activities, tools and equipment, and contacts. A job description is a written description of the basic tasks, duties, and responsibilities required of an employee holding a particular job. Job specifications, which often include as separate sections of job descriptions, are the summary of the qualifications needed to successfully perform the job. Because a job analysis specifies what a job entails, as well as knowledge, skills, and abilities that are needed to do the job well, companies must complete a job analysis before beginning to recruit job applicants. Internal recruiting is the process of developing a pool of qualified job applicants for people who already work within the company. Internal recruiting has several advantages. It improves employee commitment, morale, and motivation. It reduces recruitment startup time and cost. Because employees are already familiar with the company's culture and procedures, they're more likely to succeed in new jobs. Two methods are used for internal recruiting. Job posting is a procedure for advertising job openings within the company to existing employees, and career paths is a planned sequence of jobs through which an employee may advance within an organization. External recruiting is the process of developing a pool of qualified job applicants from outside the company. Many external recruiting methods are used. Selection is the process of gathering information about job applicants to decide who should be offered a job. To make sure that selection decisions are accurate and legally defendable, the EEOC Uniform Guidelines on Employee Selection Procedures recommend that all selection procedures be validated. Validation is the process of determining how well a selection test or procedure predicts future job performance. The first selection devices that most job applicants encounter when they seeking a job are application forms and resumes. Application forms may ask applicants only for valid job-related information. Managers should verify the information collected via resume and application forms by comparing it with additional information collected during the interview and other stages of the selection process. Nearly all companies ask for an applicant to provide employment references, such as names of previous employers or coworkers whom they can contact to learn more about the candidate. Background checks are used to verify truthfulness and accuracy of information that applicants provide about themselves and uncover negative job-related background information not provided by the applicant. Unfortunately, previous employers are increasingly reluctant to provide references or background check information for fear of being sued by previous employees for defamation. When previous employers decline to provide meaningful references or background information, they put other employers at risk of negligent hiring lawsuits, in which employers is held liable for the actions of an employee who would not have been hired if the employer had conducted a thorough reference search and background check. Topics to avoid during the selection process: asking about children. Don't ask if they have them, need them, or have any childcare needs. Age, because of the Age Discrimination Employment Act. Even asking for high school graduation dates could violate this law because it could give away age. Disabilities, don't ask the applicants if they have any physical or mental disabilities. This can't be discussed until a job offer has actually been made. Physical characteristics, don't ask about height, weight, or other physical characteristics. You can ask the applicant's name, but you cannot ask a female applicant for her maiden name because it'll indicate marital status. Citizenship, asking applicants about citizenship could lead to claims of discrimination on basis of nation of origin. Although applicants can ask if they have a legal right to work in the U.S., lawsuits applicants may not be asked if they've ever had a lawsuit against another employer. Arrest records, applicants cannot be asked about their arrest records. Arrests don't have legal standing. However, if laws allow, applicants can be asked whether they have been convicted of a crime. Smoking, can't ask if they are a smoker. Although you can ask if they are aware about the company's policy around smoking. AIDS or HIV, applicants can't be asked about AIDS or HIV or any other medical condition, including genetics. Religion, they can't be asked about religious beliefs. This would violate federal and state civil rights laws. Genetic information, can't ask about any genetic testing or family medical history. Selection tests give organizational decision makers a chance to know who will do well in a job and who won't. The selection tests discussed in this chapter are specific ability tests, cognitive ability tests, biographical data, personality tests, work sample tests, and assessment tests. Specific ability tests or aptitude tests that measure the extent to which an applicant possesses the particular kind of ability needed to do a well job. Cognitive ability tests that measure the extent to which applicants have abilities to perceptual speed, verbal comprehension, numerical aptitude, general reasoning, and spatial aptitude. Biographical tests or biodata, extensive surveys that ask applicants questions about their personal backgrounds and life experiences. Personality tests is an assessment that measures the extent to which an applicant possesses different kinds of job-related personality dimensions. Work sample tests are tests that require applicants to perform tasks that are actually done on the job. An assessment centers is a series of managerial simulations graded by trained observers that are used to determine applicants' capability for managerial work. Interviews are probably the most frequently used and relied on selection device. There are several basic kinds of interviews: unstructured, structured, and semi-structured. Training means providing opportunities for employees to develop job-specific skills, experience, and knowledge. They need to do their job or improve their performance. To make sure the training dollars are well spent, companies need to determine specific training needs and select appropriate training methods and evaluate training. Needs assessment is the process of identifying and prioritizing the learning needs of employees. Note that training should never be conducted without first performing a needs assessment. A number of training methods are available. To choose the best method, you should consider a number of factors, such as the number of people to be trained, the cost of training, the objectives of training. Training can be evaluated in 4 ways: reactions, how satisfied trainees were with the program; learning, how much employees improved their knowledge or skills; behavior, how much employees actually change their on-the-job behavior because of training; and results, how much training improved job performance, such as increased sales, quality, or decreased costs. In general, training provides meaningful benefits for most companies if it is done well. Performance appraisal is the process of assessing how well employees are doing their job. It's used to make administrative decisions, provide feedback for employee development, evaluate human resource programs, document performance ratings and decisions. Performance appraisals may not be accurate. 2 approaches have been used to improve accuracy. Improving performance appraisals measures themselves, training performance raters to be more accurate. Most common rating errors are central tendency errors. All workers are rated as average or in the middle of the scale. Halo error, all workers are rated as performing at the same level, good, bad, or average, in all parts of their job. And leniency error, all workers are rated as performing particularly well. Objective performance measures of job performance that are easily and directly counted or quantified. Subjective performance measures of job performance that require someone to judge or assess a worker's performance. Behavior observation scale, rating scale that indicates the frequency for which workers perform specific behavior that are representative of the job dimension critical to successful job performance. And rater training, train performance appraisal raters and how to avoid rating errors and increase rating accuracy. The appraisal process often breaks down the feedback stage, which can be done to overcome the inherent difficulties of performance appraisal feedback. Be mindful of being overly critical and make employees so defensive that they quit listening. Use 360-degree feedback, a performance appraisal process in which feedback is obtained from the boss, subordinates, peers, and coworkers, and the employees themselves. Discuss 360 feedback with the people who provided it. Compensation includes both financial and non-financial rewards that organizations give employees in exchange for their work. Employee separation is the broad term covering the loss of an employee for any reason. Compensation issues include compensation decisions that managers must make, termination, downsizing, retirement, and turnover. There are 3 basic kinds of compensation: pay level, pay variability, and pay structure. Pay level decisions concern whether to pay workers at a level that is below or above our current market wage. Pay variability decisions concern the extent to which employees' pay varies with individual or organizational performance. And pay structure decisions are concerned with internal pay distribution, meaning the extent to which people in the company receive different pay levels of pay. Piecework is a compensation system in which employees are paid at a set rate for each item they produce. Commission is compensation system in which employees earn a percentage of each sale they make. Profit sharing is a compensation system in which the company pays a percentage of its profits to employees in addition to the regular compensation. Employee stock ownership plan is a compensation system that rewards employees shares of a company's stock in addition to the regular compensation. And stock options is a compensation system that gives employees the right to purchase shares of stock at a set price, even if the value of the stock increases above that price. Hierarchy pay structure is the large difference in pay between jobs or organizational levels. Work best when clear links can be drawn between individual performance and individual reward. Compressed pay structures are typically have fewer pay levels and smaller differences in pay between levels. Work best for interdependent work, which requires employees to work together. Middle ground is combining hierarchy and compressed pay structures by giving ordinary workers the chance to earn more through ESOPs, stock options, and profit sharing. In most situations, firing should not be the first option. Instead, employees should be given a chance to change their behavior. When problems arise, employees should have ample warning and must be specifically informed as to the nature and seriousness of the trouble they are in. Employees should be fired only for good reason. Wrongful discharge is a legal doctrine that requires employers to have job-related reasons to terminate employees. Downsizing is the planned elimination of jobs in a company. In theory, downsizing is supposed to lead to higher productivity and profits, better stock performance, and increased organizational flexibility. However, numerous studies demonstrate that it does not. Early retirement incentive programs offer financial benefits to employees to encourage them to retire early. Companies use ERIPs to reduce the number of employees in the organization, to lower costs by eliminating positions after employees retire, to lower costs by replacing higher paid retirees with lower paid, less experienced employees, or to create openings and job opportunities for people inside the company. Employee turnover is the loss of employees who voluntarily choose to leave the company. In general, most companies try to keep the rate of employee turnover low to reduce recruiting, hiring, and training and replacement costs. Functional turnover gives the organization a chance to replace poor performers with better workers. Dysfunctional turnover is the loss of high performers who choose to leave. It is a costly loss to the organization. Once again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this lecture. Please reach out if you have any questions.